All right. Well, we got Tyler Williams here. He's an owner of a couple properties that we manage right now. Pretty new client, but we've helped him out with some stuff. So we just kind of want to talk to you, Tyler, and get your experience. And first of all, talk about kind of tell me who you are, your quick story, interests, hobbies. Tell me who Tyler is.
Yeah, so I'm a my main occupation. I'm a dentist, a practice owner, and I've been doing that for about 10 years. And family, 3 kids. I enjoy doing things outside. Um, you know, uh, I like exercising outside a lot more than inside. So I don't call myself a pro at anything, but I just enjoy the outside. Enjoy the Utah. We have great mountains and weather, and you can do all the activities you want in a day, which is pretty cool. So, and then I do have some rental properties as well, and so that's kind of a fun side business as well. And then I actually just got a new property, which is a commercial building. So it's kind of my first venture into that, and that's where my practice is located. So
So you're
yeah,
making good moves. So what inspired you or made you want to get into owning rental properties?
yeah. So after, well, I would say even before I went to dental school, I was always interested in real estate. But what I soon realized when I got out of school was with dentistry, it's a great profession and I love it. I plan to stay in it for a long time, but it's very dependent on my hands and me being in the chair. It's a very active way to earn income. And so real estate's nice because it's a passive form of income. And even though it's different, it has its different forms of challenges and things to learn from. It's nice for me to have both because then, when I'm not working, I can still earn an income. Or if I were ever to get injured or hurt or for some reason couldn't practice, I've got those things in place for my family so that, my wife or kids wouldn't have to totally change their life or, move out of our home or something like that if something were to happen.
Awesome. So you walk around with gloves all day whenever you're not working. Got to keep
Full
those
body,
things
full
safe.
body suit, usually chain metal, just everywhere,
I'm
Gotta,
more of
you
a
can't be too
plastic
careful.
bubble guy.
Can't be too careful. Yeah, actually, there was a guy who in dental school. I didn't know him, but he was a few years ahead of me. He actually was in a Jeep rollover, and he had his hand on the roll cage,
Oh,
and he crunched his hand. Fortunately, he was in dental school, so he was able to actually retrain with his other hand, and he was okay. So if there's a time to do it, that's the time. But if that happens once you're graduated and you're in the real world, that's a much worse time to do it. That story kind of inspired me in dental school. I practice with both hands because I am one of those weird left-handed people. So a lot of things I do left and right, I just keep up on that because for that exact reason, you lose a hand, but something could happen. I could lose both hands, and so real estate's been great because my hands aren't as important for that venture.
so you see the value because of the passive income and just secondary ways to still protect your family.
Yeah, yeah, and for me, I really like the buy and hold strategy more because again, the fix and flip is cool, but that's more kind of for me, I'd be better doing dentistry if I'm going to be doing something more active. So I like the buy and hold for more um, passive income.
What before you got into it, or even every time you get a new property, what are your biggest fears about owning rentals, or what were your biggest fears?
With the first one, it's like, oh, what if the toilet gets clogged, or who am I going to have manage the property, or how are we going to find a tenant, or what if I can't pay the mortgage one month? It's kind of like a kid. The first one, you like overanalyze it. You're worried about every little thing. And then by the second one, you're kind of like, oh, okay, I get this. I'm actually a lot less worried about all those little things. The biggest thing now is just going, hey, am I buying it at a good price that can cash flow and make money month after month? Because there's going to be expenses, there's going to be taxes, there's going to be vacancies. So, just planning ahead for the worst case scenario, look for the best, but plan for the worst so that you can build into it. Hey, I'm going to have some vacancy months. I got to put some extra money aside, and I'm going to have some major repairs happen every few years. It's going to need a roof. You're going to have to remodel a kitchen. You're going to have a tenant now and then destroy the place. So you got to be ready for it.
Yeah, I mean that's a good point. And has it been as scary as you thought it was going to be?
Um, I would say no, overall, no. I mean, the first one, the mistake I made is I tried to get my hands in it too much and I try to like rush after work and oh maybe if I can, throw some old stuff away and do this and that, but it's like I just messed it up. You either gonna go all in or if you're gonna kind of be like the general contractor, I think that's fine too. But now I'm like, I just try to stay out of it as much. And it's the same thing, with my own practice and with my own clients of other dental practices is like, if the numbers don't work, nothing else will. So I'm a very numbers person. And you go, hey, if the numbers make sense on a spreadsheet on your cash flow analysis, then everything's going to work out fine. And then you don't have to live in fear of, everything's going to go bad. I think the mistake I've seen, and I'm not as experienced as you guys certainly, but people who want to get into it, they're very excited and they think it's, they're going to own all this property and land and millions of dollars worth of stuff. And while that can be very true, a lot of people get cash poor on the property because they buy something where maybe the rents aren't as good as it needs to be for them to cash flow, or they haven't built into the budget repairs and those kind of things. And then they get hung up.
Yeah, totally. And that's valuable experience that you've gotten. So it sounds like you've tried to do some management yourself in the
Yeah.
past. How did that go for you?
So the first property I bought, again, I thought, oh, well, maybe I'll just manage this one just so I can kind of get the big picture of what's going on. And, on that note, I would say too, for people watching this is if you're going to buy a property, I would, kick that property, some information about it to your property manager, to your proposed property manager. Say, hey, what do you think about this area? What are rents you've seen with your clients and those kind of things? Because I've done that since the beginning, and that's been very helpful too. And I haven't so far, picked any areas. I don't think there are any really terrible areas in our local market here. But if there would have been, that's just a nice screening tool that's an advantage of a property manager. But the first one, I thought, yeah, I'll rent this. And then I was like, I'd be seeing patients all day. I'd rush and try to meet people, which of course is never the times they want to meet you, because when people want to meet you, they want to meet you. And so I kind of did a little market research. I had a price out there of what I was going to ask for rent. And after I interviewed the first potential client, I thought, I'm out. I'm getting the property manager in here because they're just asking questions and when can I move into the, and I'm like, deer in the headlights. So turned it over to the property manager and he was like, well, I think we can get $150 a month more than that, which was the case. So it more than covered the management fee, and then all the headaches were taken away. And so, 100% since then, I haven't looked back. I always had a manager on my properties because, property managers are really good at what they're doing. They know it. But, and then just once in a while, have a handyman go by there and just say, hey, what kind of maintenance are there? Trees that are leaning against the rain gutters, those kind of things. But, definitely a property manager is a great tool to have. And I wouldn't recommend, if you really want to build your portfolio, to do it without it. If you just want to have one property, you can probably do it yourself, but you're also probably not going to ever make that much because you're going to be, most people that do that, I see they're too emotionally attached to that property. Usually it's something they lived in. It's like their baby and they think it's worth $1 million when it's worth $50,000. And, so I would say definitely get property managers, especially if you have more than one property.
And one thing that I've talked to a few different owners that own one property is they say, if I do it myself, I learn everything, I go through it, and then the tenant stays there for 1, 2, 3 years. I forget everything I learned because I'm not doing it repetitiously. And they're like, I make the same mistakes over and
Yeah.
over. So that's,
Or if you had, I haven't had this, I've maybe had, I think I've had 2 or 3 tenants in, 8 years in multiple properties where, I don't think we've ever actually had an eviction, but someone would vacate. But like if that happened on your own and you got to try to figure out all the legalese and hire an attorney and stuff, you're gonna just in one transaction blow through anything you think you were saving by trying to do it yourself.
yeah, it's tough. It's tough to do that. So since you've worked with property managers, you've tried it a little bit on yourself. What's your experience been like working with Nestwell?
So it's been great. I mean, the thing I really like with Nestwell is the minute, I express interest, you guys were so organized and people are so great at follow up. And I feel like, that, the companies and the property managers, I mean, any business that does really well today are people who are good at following up. And you guys have been outstanding with that. And, you have dedicated people with different roles who follow up and they're very thorough. And I feel like the tenants really like the property manager, which is key because if the tenants aren't happy with the manager, then they're more likely to revolt probably or leave or try to, be late on their payments or something. And you guys been super thorough and organized and also made it really easy. I think like when you send the documents for us to sign, it's more than I've seen with other property managers, but I really like that because I can tell you've thought through the process more and it protects me more as an owner and protects the tenants more to make sure that all the T's are crossed and I's are dotted.
Yeah, a lot of mistakes can be made is something that we've learned in all our years of experience. So that's part of the reason we know it's a heavy onboarding experience, but it's worth it because then once we do that, then you can have ease and peace of mind knowing that we have all the information we need instead of every other month we're like, hey, we don't have the information we need. We don't even know about utilities or we messed up, we did something wrong. So that's been a good learning experience for us. As far as just peace of mind, what are kind of the biggest benefits that you felt like have been taken away your pain points or have just made your life easier working with
Well,
Nestwell?
yeah, I mean, there was a story, a year or so ago about a guy who was managing his own property and he was killed on site at his property, which is really, really sad. And, he had a family and everything. And, some people listening to this may know, who this person or something similar. So I think that's probably an extreme example, but I don't have to worry about that. I also don't have to worry about legal issues nearly as much because a lot of times what, me as an uninformed person, if I were trying to self-manage the property, if I contact an attorney, of course they're going to find something legally wrong with the situation. That's the job of an attorney is to pick apart every legal thing, right? But just as quick, probably quicker, easier, more efficient would be call someone like Nestwell, someone on your team who specifically deals with that issue, and they've seen it 100 different ways, 1,000 different times, and they know the right button to push or who to call or how to do a polite kind of warning to the tenant or a more creative solution to the problem. And it just the more people you have helping you, the better. And to have a good, investment of any kind, you got to have a team of people, I think, to do well. And those don't have to be employees; those might be vendors or independent contractors like you guys. But you got to have some people around you that you can bounce ideas off of. So you don't always have to agree, but it just sort of makes sure that you're making the right decision and that you're informed and you know what you're talking about.
That's awesome because one thing that we really try and pride ourselves on is that we really want to be a team with you, right? We're not trying to say, hey, there's Tyler, the owner, and then we're Nestwell and we do what we do. It's a team and collaborative effort. And what's awesome about that is we are constantly training. We go to trainings all the time. I mean, our whole team goes to trainings every year. A lot of our executives are in trainings every month to know what to do with those legal issues that might come up, right? So like you would be scrambling and trying to get advice where we're like, hey, this came up in the meeting I was in last week. We already know how to handle this. Or I already have a great idea of what to do. We have an attorney on retainer so we can help you. Where you'd be going, first of all, I'm going to have to pay an attorney to get advice. I'm going to have to check with an attorney, right? Like you're starting from ground zero saying, I don't know what to do. And we already have that. So that's cool to hear from you on that. So I don't want to take up too much of your time, but any last thoughts on like your favorite parts of owning rental properties and a property manager?
Well, one more thing I was just going to say is, example out of a couple properties is some cities will, charge you X rate for a business license to rent homes. But if you're a member of things like, I think it's the Good Landlord Club or something like that,
Yep.
they'll reduce your rate, right? And I remember the first time I saw that, it was like I was going to save like $150 a year or something if I did that. but I see what I got to do. You got to go to some class and fill out these papers and do this. And I already had a bad attitude, and I'm like, I'm clearly not a good landlord if I have that kind of attitude about just filling this sheet out, you know. And I mean, I do pride myself on making the homes a nice place to live, but again, you know, it's like just by having that property manager, they already have that button pushed, which allowed me to get the reduced rate on the business license for the city. So again, just there's a lot of intangible savings, but I think more than anything is, you know, time is money. And if you can, you know, if you have an extra half month or a month in vacancy, trying to do it on your own, that a property manager can move somebody right in, it keeps the ball rolling and keeps the income coming in. And that's really what you want, especially if you're going to buy and hold properties to make it work.
Yeah. One really key thing that stuck out to me was how you said that when you try and do it on your own, or when you make mistakes, or if you work with a bad property manager, right? There's great property management companies out there. We're not the only one that's good, but there's bad ones. It typically ends up costing you a lot more in ways you didn't expect, right? You think you're saving a buck by doing it on your own or choosing the cheap guys, and then you kind of learn when mistakes are made, if a vacancy takes too long, or we've had owners that have tried to do the turn on their own, and the turn is from when a tenant moves out to when a tenant moves in, and it'll take them 21 days to get that done. And we'll be sitting here going, we could have done that in like 3 days and already had a tenant in. So you just cost yourself 2 weeks of rent to save a couple $100 maybe on costs using your brother or whatever. So have you had any experience where, do you have a specific experience? If not, it's fine. But where you, by doing it on your own or working with a bad property manager, you feel like it definitely cost you?
Yeah, I mean, I did have one property manager who, I could just tell she didn't know what she was doing and super unorganized. And there actually wasn't anything wrong with the current property manager. I just said, hey, this is my second property. I'm going to see what I can learn from this person, right? And it was a headache. You have to, if you want to manage your own property for the learning experience, I would say, great, go for it, do it. If you want to better understand real estate and the workings, but if you're trying to do it to save money, it's going to what you think you're saving, you're going to be stepping over dollars to pick up pennies, because you're just going to, unless you don't work, and unless, that's your full-time job and you really want to do it, great.
Well, I'm honored that someone with hands as important as yours would take a few minutes to talk with me. I just have one more question. It's the most important question by far. Do you actually eat tacos on Taco Tuesday?
Absolutely. And most importantly, I floss on Taco Tuesday
That's the plug.
After I eat those tacos. Yeah.
I only floss. I don't brush after tacos because I want to keep the taste. But I got to get those teeth cleaned.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah. Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, thank you so much for imparting your wisdom and telling us your thoughts. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, I hope it helps to some people listening, and happy to help anytime. Okay, I'll see you. Thanks,
Tyler.